Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Regardless of where you are in life, we all sometimes crave a bit of tranquility and quiet. That's why today, I'll be sharing some Reddit tales to help you concentrate or simply to be a soothing presence in the background. This time, we're delving into Art Today, edUp. If you're new here, a very warm welcome. Each day, I bring you stories from Reddit every day, perfect for unwinding, finding a moment of calm, or just sharing a peaceful interlude while you hit the books. Before we kick things off, please let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and subscribe if you enjoy a little company while studying. Now, make yourself comfortable, grab your favorite snacks, and let's get these stories rolling. Today, I fucked up by sending a calendar invite for a surprise lunch and accidentally inviting the entire European sales org, including the CEO. I, 30 on them, am a mid-level marketing goblin at a mid-sized SaaS company. My job is mostly decks, event booths, and making sure sales has pretty PDFs to shove under prospects' noses. Harmless stuff. I'm not supposed to be anywhere near strategic initiatives or big leadership moments. Unfortunately, I briefly became god of calendars. Backstory. My teammate Elle has had a rough quarter. Her dad's been sick, she's been shouldering way too much, still shows up and crushes it. Our immediate team wanted to do something small but nice, a surprise lunch at this cozy 12-seat bistro near the office. I volunteered to wrangle calendars because I am the fool who says, "How hard could that be?" out loud. Key info. A few months ago, we ran an internal lunch and learn. To make scheduling easy, someone added me as a co-organizer to a Marketing Plus EU sales shared calendar. I never turned that off. I did not know I could send invites through a group that looks like a normal calendar until today. So I make an event. Surprise lunch for Elle. Shh. Yes, I put shh like a clown. I set it for 12:30, added a cute description, keep this hush hush, bring a small card, we'll cover the bill. Selected the little fork and knife emoji and chose marketing calendar from the dropdown. Except it wasn't the marketing calendar. It was that cursed Marketing Plus EU sales thing. Invisible to me was the fact that this calendar has like 140 people on it. Also invisible to me, permissions set to guests can invite others. I hit send, immediately 5 pings. I'm in. Sounds fun. Count me +2. I'm like, wow, people really love Elle. Then I see the names and my stomach drops. These are not my people. These are sales directors. A regional manager from Madrid, a random SDR from Warsaw. My Slack turns into an EDM festival. Then I see the one that made my vision tunnel. A quiet, accepted from our CEO. I scramble into the event settings and see the guest list mushrooming like a time lapse of mold. For some reason, people are adding their reps. She loves bistros. Plus finance. Someone needs a company card. Plus a couple of curious engineers. Never met Elle, but I'm free. A literal chain reaction from my guests can invite others checkbox. In 5 minutes, we are at 57 yes and 22. Maybe. For a 12-seat restaurant, I start editing the invite description to please ignore wrong calendar. But every edit pushes another notification and more eyes, and people keep replying, ha ha, classic marketing, see you there. I ping my boss, who's on a flight, the ops person who's at the dentist, and Elle, who, again, isn't supposed to know. Elle, who is the world's most organized person, messages me, "Did you just send me a surprise lunch invite?" I die. I actually die. My ghost finishes reading the Slack, damage control plan, call the restaurant, explain we made a tiny mistake, ask if they can do, say, 15. The owner answers and I'm like, "Hi, we have a reservation for 12:30 for 8 to 12 people. And he cuts me off with the sweetest voice. Yes, the one that suddenly became 60. He's been watching the Google reservation sheet explode in real time, like a stock price during a short squeeze. I can hear Pan screaming in the background. He is an angel. He says he can make creative use of the patio. It is November. Flip tables, call in his cousin, and borrow chairs from the hair salon next door. He's game for 30 max. Staggered, but not 60 plus. I tell him I will fix it. I hang up, immediately unsend the invite. Late. then create a private event with the actual marketing team and set the bistro to 12 seats. I also create a new event for the accidental horde that says event moved, casual meet and greet at the office cafeteria, with sandwiches provided. We have a cafeteria that can handle ambushes if you wave a card fast enough. And yes, I add, please don't invite others. Seriously, I also changed the original bistro invite title to Ignore Error, Do Not Attend, and then I do the thing I should have done an hour ago. I remove guests can invite others. This is the point where the universe decides to roll a nat 1 on my behalf. The CEO, who never replies to anything, replies, big turnout, let's support L. I'll swing by the restaurant at 12:45 to say hi. It looks like he ignored the cafeteria relocation, or didn't see it, or thought it was in addition to the bistro. Several sales leaders respond, see you there, like it's Coachella, and the bistro's the main stage, it's 12:05. I sprint to the bistro to beg forgiveness and physically block the door with my body if needed. The owner, Angel, has already set up creative seating, which appears to be all 12 seats, 2 bar stools, 3 patio tables dragged inside like refugees from a storm, and a tall plant being used as a coat rack. Staff are moving like a ballet. He sees me and just laughs. He has embraced fate. At 12:25, our marketing crew arrives. Elle looks confused, so much for surprise, then touched, then concerned because she can see my face doing math. I explain the accidental invite to half of Europe in a single breath. She does an audible, oh no. We sit, we order, we keep an eye on the door. 12:32, 2 sales reps from Dublin wander in, look around like wrong-turn tourists and say, we're here for Elle. I direct them to the office cafeteria, overflow. They thank me and ask where the bar is. I tell them it's at the cafeteria. It's not. There is only coffee. They go anyway. 12:37, a squad from Berlin shows up. Same drill. They're surprisingly chill. One of them takes a selfie with the tall plant. 12:41, the CFO appears. I did not invite the CFO. I mean, I did, but not intentionally. And then I tried very hard to uninvite him. He just materializes like a minor deity, holding a company Amex like Thor holds Mjolnir. He says, I got a ping about 80 people at a restaurant. I explain the cafeteria relocation and he goes, sensible. Then he sits at the bistro with us. He orders soup. 12:46, the CEO walks in. He is smiling. He's wearing the nice jacket. He says, where's the big crowd? And I say, in the cafeteria. He says, why are we here? And I say, because we are 12. He points at the CFO and says, and him? And I say, he enjoys soup. Elle covers her face with her menu and shakes with silent laughter. The CEO takes it like a champ. He congratulates Elle for being a rock star, clinks water glasses with us, says he'll swing by the satellite party, the cafeteria, after. He doesn't look mad. Yet. I think we're okay. Then the door opens and 17 people pile in like a clown car. I recognize none of them. They saw the original event title and never saw the move. My soul leaves my body again. The staff are heroes. They redirect people to the cafeteria with cheery, you're in the other party, energy. The CFO pays for our table, muttering something about budget reclassifications. The CEO leaves early and actually goes to the cafeteria with a speech about supporting each other, which is very sweet and also cements that this happened in front of basically everyone. At 1:50, our table is done, the bistro is clean, and I'm ready to resign and become a shepherd. I return to the office. The cafeteria looks like a startup's holiday party, 50-ish people eating sandwiches, Elle doing a lap with a paper plate, sales reps telling a story about the plant. Nobody is mad, people are weirdly buzzing. Someone has already made a meme of me holding a calendar with a mushroom cloud. I get a DM from HR. When you have a sec, chat. I walk in. They are kind. They say, please do not send company-wide invites without confirming the calendar. I say, I will cut off both my hands. They say, no need, just use restricted lists. Then my boss, fresh off her flight, calls me and says, I was in the air for 3 hours. What did you do? I recount everything and she just laughs, like tears. At least you planned a successful European field marketer outreach, she says. which is the most generous interpretation ever spoken. The bistro owner texted me a photo, because I made the reservation on my personal cell, of the tall plant doing its best coat rack impression, with a caption, "Anytime you want to break my restaurant again, let me know. You guys tip well." TLDR tried to plan a small surprise lunch for a co-worker, accidentally invited half the company via a shared calendar, with guests can invite others turned on. The CEO showed up to the 12-seat bistro, so did random sales reps, redirected the horde to the cafeteria, CFO adopted the bill, restaurant survived, HR gently scolded me, and I am now a calendar legend for all the wrong reasons. Update, same day, 5:40 p.m. A few things happened after I posted, with trembling fingers during my break. Accounting bot finance fallout, in a good way. Our CFO, Soup Guy, sent a company-wide note. Great to see cross-team support for L today. Marketing will not be charged for cafeteria catering. Please direct future large gatherings to the event's alias. He then pinged me privately and said, "In the future, email us before creating a spontaneous all hands." I responded, "Absolutely, will never touch the big red button again." He replied with a soup emoji, the CEO's take he posted in the Body Wins channel, with a photo from the cafeteria, mercifully not of my dying soul, and wrote, "Shout out to L for being an exemplar, and to OP for accidentally sparking a pop-up offsite." Then he DM'd me, "Don't worry, funny story." Nice save. I asked if I could never be near shared calendars again, and he sent back a thumbs up and a link to a doc titled "How Calendars Work." He added a winky face. "I will be studying this like it's the bar exam." Elle's reaction. She hugged me in the hallway and said it was the nicest chaotic thing anyone has ever done for her. She also gently suggested we do a smaller, actually private lunch next week. Just us, without international observers. She gave me a handwritten thank you note, which I will keep next to my future collection of cautionary tales. Restaurant epilogue. I walked back to the bistro after work with a box of fancy chocolates and a comically apologetic note. The owner laughed and said, "You brought me 50 potential customers and a story. We're even." He also asked if our company wants to book a real private event. I told him I am not authorized to touch calendars anymore. He said, "Good." Policy changes, aka my legacy. IT flipped the default on shared calendars from guests can invite others to only organizer can invite. There is now an internal wiki page called The Lunch. The thumbnail is, unfortunately, the plant. The meme stock rises, people keep sending me photoshops of me wearing a general's uniform with medals that say, "Operation Surprise Lunch." Someone started a fake ticketed event called After Party at Bistro Name and set the capacity to 500. It already has 12 yes reactions and one "I'm bringing the plant." Actual consequence, I have to run a short training next week on calendar best practices for our team. I am both the least qualified and the most qualified person to do this. I made the deck this afternoon. It has 3 slides and one of them is "Do not invite the continent." HR reviewed it and said it's surprisingly helpful. I'm proud, I guess. Anyway, I survived. Elle felt loved. No one yelled. The CEO got his steps in between bistro and cafeteria, and I learned that every drop-down is a loaded weapon if you don't read the label. If you're reading this because your company also uses shared calendars, go check your permissions. Right now, I'll wait. Some mistakes only spill a few sandwiches. Others wake up entire systems. Next up, a guy tries to be a good neighbor by holding a package for safekeeping and accidentally trips a fraud flag that locks his bank account, his PayPal, and, somehow, his gym membership. The rabbit hole goes deeper than the mailbox. Today, I fucked up by holding a package for my neighbor and accidentally getting flagged as part of a fraud ring. So, I've lived in this apartment complex for about 4 years now. Quiet, mostly older folks, lots of people who travel for work. I, 27 Emmy, mostly keep to myself. Wave at neighbors, help with trash cans sometimes. That's it. About a month ago, a new guy moved in 2 doors down. Mid-30s, super friendly, kind of that overly enthusiastic, "Hey buddy," energy. Let's call him Rick. Rick mentioned he travels a lot for consulting and asked if I could occasionally grab packages for him when he's out of town. We have those lockers, but sometimes couriers just dump stuff by the doors. I said sure, no big deal. Figured it'd be a favor I'd want returned someday. 2 weeks later, he texts me out of nowhere. Hey man, got a delivery coming tomorrow. Should be a small box. Mind holding it for me until Saturday? No problem. Box arrives. It's a plain brown UPS thing, maybe shoebox-sized, heavy-ish, with his name and my building address. I grab it, stick it in my hallway closet. Saturday comes and goes, no Rick. Monday morning I text him, hey, still got your package? No response. Later that day, I see his doors open and some movers are in there. Turns out he moved out suddenly over the weekend. Weird, but okay. I figure maybe he'll circle back. A few days go by. The box is still sitting there. Now here's where I fuck up. My curiosity starts gnawing at me. The box has been in my apartment for a week. I consider tossing it, but that feels wrong. I consider returning it, but it's already delivered. So I decide to contact UPS and ask if I can mark it as return to sender. They tell me that since it was successfully delivered, I have to contact the shipper. There's no shipper info visible, just a label with a tracking number and a PO box. So, genius me, I Google the tracking number. That's when things start to go sideways. The tracking pulls up fine, but then I see a little note saying, delivery address under investigation. My stomach drops. About an hour later, 2 men in suits, not police uniforms, knock on my door. They flash badges, US Postal Inspection Service. Yes, apparently that's a real thing, and not just something from movies. They ask if I'm Daniel, my last name. I say yes. One of them holds up the box. Is this yours? I say no, it's my neighbor's. They ask how I got it. I tell them the whole story. Rick asked me to hold it, he moved out, I was just trying to return it. They look at each other, then at me. The older one sighs and says, we've been tracking multiple fraudulent shipments connected to that name and address. I'm like, wait, my address? He says, yes, multiple. I swear my blood turned to ice water. I let them in. Mistake, maybe, but they were polite. They explain that some fraud ring's been buying high-end electronics with stolen cards and shipping them to mules. Basically random addresses where someone picks up the packages later. And now, congratulations, my apartment was one of the drop points. They ask if I've received any other boxes. I haven't. They ask if I know Rick's last name. I don't. He just said, Rick. They show me a photo. It's him. I'm officially living in an actual scam subplot. They take the box as evidence, give me a card, and tell me to expect a call from a detective for follow-up. I think, okay, that's it. Lesson learned. Oh no. The universe was just warming up. 2 days later, I get an email from my bank. Suspicious activity detected, account temporarily locked. Then PayPal. Your account has been limited. Then, weirdest of all, my gym app says payment declined. Turns out, when your address gets flagged in a federal fraud investigation, your name and info can get temporarily cross-checked through fraud prevention systems. I'm apparently on a list now. I spend the next 72 hours on calls. Bank, PayPal, credit bureau, all confirming that I'm not laundering stolen MacBooks for an international ring. One rep, straight up, asked if I often receive packages for third parties. I said, not anymore, ma'am. It gets even better. The building manager slips a letter under my door. Notice of potential lease violation due to investigation. I have to go into the leasing office and explain the situation to a guy named Trevor who looks like he's 12 and thinks this is the most interesting thing that's ever happened to him. So like, you were harboring packages for a scammer, he says. I tell him no, I was holding one for a neighbor. He nods sagely and says, right, but still sounds sketchy. Thanks, Trevor. Anyway, after about a week of bureaucratic purgatory, the dust starts to settle. The detective calls me, says I'm in the clear, and thanks me for cooperating. He says the package contained 4 iPhones purchased with stolen credit cards. They traced the cards back to multiple victims across states. Rick apparently skipped town the same weekend the feds closed in. He was using fake leases and moving every few months to new buildings. I ask if I could have known. The detective says, you'd be surprised how many normal people get tangled up like this. Comforting. So now my accounts are unlocked, my lease is safe, but I still flinch every time the delivery guy drops something off. I even told Amazon to leave packages at the pickup locker instead of my door, just in case. My neighbors all think I'm some kind of criminal mastermind turned informant. One old lady winked at me and said, "Stay safe, sweetie." TLDR. Tried to help a friendly new neighbor by holding a package while he was out of town. Turns out he was part of a fraud ring shipping stolen electronics to random addresses. Got visited by federal agents, had my bank and PayPal locked, and almost lost my lease, never holding anyone's mail again. Update, 1 week later. I didn't expect this to blow up, but wow. Thanks for all the "not your fault" comments. Made me feel slightly less like the world's dumbest good Samaritan. Couple things happened since posting. The landlord meeting, corporate HQ got wind of the incident and called me in. They asked if I'd be willing to give a written statement for the record. I did. The manager actually apologized afterward for how the notice was worded. He said, "We're just trying to protect the property." He also joked, "You're famous in our training Slack now." Not sure how to feel about that. Insurance twist, my renter's insurance pinged me saying the Postal Inspection Service requested info for their report. Apparently, I'm listed as a cooperative witness, which sounds badass but basically means they might call me if the case goes to court. So now I get to be the guy on the stand like, "Yes, that's the box I stored in my hallway next to a vacuum cleaner." The real Rick. I asked the detective if Rick was his real name. Nope. He'd been using a string of fake IDs tied to prepaid debit cards. He wasn't even a tenant in our system, just subleasing from someone who moved out early. They found his car at a storage unit 3 towns over, full of empty packaging and shipping labels. It was like a dollar store version of Catch Me If You Can. My reputation, someone in the building put a sticky note on the mailroom door that says, "No package holding" in all caps. Another neighbor stuck underneath it. Except for Daniel, he's clearly feds. Can't even be mad. It's kind of funny. The bright side, the detective told me the bust helped them connect the dots on a larger ring. They'd been tracking the shipments for months, and the box I had was the missing link. So technically, my stupidity helped catch a criminal. He said, "You're like a citizen hero by accident." I said, "Yeah, the dumbest Batman." So, moral of the story, trust your gut. If someone you just met asks you to hold a mystery package, say no. Or at least Google them first. My neighbors still joke about me running a side hustle, but hey, at least now my bank account works again. And I learned that even a simple favor can make you an unwitting co-conspirator in a federal sting operation. Sometimes screwing up brings the cops to your door. Other times it brings someone you never expected back into your life. Up next, a woman finds an old phone in her late brother's room, and what she hears on the voicemail changes what she thought she knew about his final night. Today, I fucked up by answering my late brother's old phone and realizing someone else still thought he was alive. This happened about 6 months ago, but it's been sitting in my chest like a stone ever since. My older brother Evan passed away 3 years ago. Car accident. He was 29. It was one of those middle-of-the-night phone calls that splits your life into a before and after. My parents never really recovered. I don't think anyone fully does. We boxed up most of his stuff pretty quickly after the funeral because it was too painful to have reminders around. But one thing that stayed in a drawer at my parents' house was his old phone. It was locked, out of battery, and honestly, we just didn't know what to do with it. Throwing it out felt wrong. Fast forward to this spring, my mum decides to finally clean out the storage closet and hands me a shoebox with random electronics. Inside is the phone. An old iPhone 6, a little scratched, still has a cheap plastic case on it with a faded sticker that says, "Keep it weird." I figured I'd charge it up, maybe see if there were photos we hadn't backed up. I plug it in and let it sit. When I come back, it boots up fine. No passcode. Typical Evan. He said, if someone steals my phone, that's their problem. As it turns out, there wasn't much on it. Most of the photos were duplicates, some old texts, some playlists. I was about to shut it off when it started vibrating. I swear I jumped. The screen said unknown caller. I shouldn't have answered, I know that. But something about seeing that on his phone made my hands move before my brain caught up. I swiped. Hello? There's a pause, then a woman's voice. Evan? I froze. My heart actually stopped for a beat. I said, who is this? Another pause. Then she says, quieter, It's Claire, who's this? I say, this was Evan's phone. I'm his brother. Silence. Then, oh my God. She starts crying. I have no idea what to do. I'm standing in my kitchen holding a 3-year-old phone like it's haunted. She keeps apologizing between sobs, saying she didn't know, that she just found the number again. She says she and Evan used to talk, but they'd lost touch right before he died. I ask if she knew what happened, and she says she didn't. That she moved states, got a new number, and only recently thought to try his old one again after going through her contacts. We talked for maybe 15 minutes. She told me she and Evan dated briefly in college, something my family never knew, but stayed friends afterward. She said he helped her through a rough time, that he was the first person who ever made her feel seen. I didn't know what to say to that. I think I just said thank you a dozen times. Before hanging up, she said, I don't know if it's weird, but I'm glad someone answered. After we hung up, I sat on the floor and cried harder than I had in years, because for the first time since the accident, it felt like Evan had called back. But the real fuck up came the next day. Out of habit, I saved her number in my phone, my real phone, as Claire Evan. I thought maybe I'd send a message later to thank her for telling me more about him. That night, after a couple of drinks, I did. Just a short text. Hey, this is Evan's brother from yesterday. Thanks again for talking with me. She replied almost instantly, of course, it meant a lot to hear his voice again, even for a second. And that's when it hit me. She thought I was him, because I'd answered his phone with his number. My voice is deep, a lot like his. I didn't say my name clearly when I picked up, just, hello. And when I said this was Evan's phone, maybe she heard this is Evan's phone. I reread our whole conversation in my head, and it made horrible sense. When I'd said, he's my brother, she thought I meant my brother's using my phone. When she said, oh my God, maybe she was reacting to hearing him after years, not realizing I was telling her he was gone. I panicked and called her again. No answer. I left a voicemail, trying to gently explain what happened, that I was sorry for the confusion, that I didn't mean to upset her. I said I'd be happy to talk again if she wanted to share stories about him, but that Evan passed away 3 years ago. She never called back. A week later, I got a text from the same number. Please don't contact me again, I'm sorry. This was too hard. And that was it. I felt like I'd ripped open her grief just to satisfy my own curiosity. Like I'd handed her that same midnight phone call, years too late. The phone's off now, sitting back in the drawer. I couldn't bring myself to wipe it. Sometimes I think about how long that number will exist in some database, ready to ring again for the next unknown caller. And I wonder how many people out there have names saved in their contacts that belong to ghosts. TLDR. Charged my late brother's phone, answered a call from an unknown number, and realized too late that the caller thought she was speaking to him. Tried to explain afterward and only made her grief worse. Update 2 months later. A lot of you said to write her a letter. Not to send it, but to write it. So I did. It wasn't long. I told her I was sorry for confusing her, and that I understood why she didn't want contact. I told her that hearing her talk about him reminded me of the parts of Evan we'd lost sight of. His humor, his warmth, his way of seeing people when they needed it most. Then I folded it up and left it in the shoebox with the phone. My mum found it a few weeks later while helping me move apartments. She read it quietly, then said, he'd be glad you answered. Maybe she's right. Maybe the call wasn't a mistake. Maybe it was just a connection that burned too bright for a few minutes before fading again. Either way, I don't delete the number. I don't think I ever will. Some calls reopen the past, others warn you about the future. Our next story comes from someone who thought their smart home speaker was haunted, until they found out it wasn't a ghost listening at all. Today, I fucked up by thinking my smart speaker was haunted, and accidentally catching my landlord spying on me. This one still makes my skin crawl, even though it technically ended okay. So I, 26F, moved into this small studio apartment about 4 months ago. It's old but cozy, creaky hardwood floors, big window, terrible water pressure, pretty standard city living. The landlord Mitch seemed normal enough. Late 40s, always wearing a Bluetooth headset like he's perpetually mid-business call. He lives in the building 2 floors down. When I moved in, I set up one of those smart speakers, the kind you can talk to for music or timers. It's the small model, one I've had for years. I mostly use it to play ambient noise while I work. About 3 weeks after moving in, weird things started happening. The speaker would turn on by itself. I'd come home and find music playing that I didn't start. Once it said in that bland, cheerful voice, "Welcome back," right as I walked through the door. At first, I assumed I'd left some automation running, or that my phone was connected. I factory reset it, changed the Wi-Fi password, even set up a new account. Didn't help. Then it started responding to things I hadn't said. I'd be in bed reading, totally quiet, and it'd light up and say, "I didn't catch that." Sometimes at 3 a.m., it got to the point where I unplugged it at night because I couldn't sleep with the random boop noises. I joked to my friend that maybe my apartment was haunted. Then came the night that made me realize something was seriously wrong. I was cooking late, maybe 11 p.m., had the speaker plugged in for music. It suddenly said clear as day, "Is this thing on?" I froze. That's not a system phrase. I checked my phone. Nothing was playing. I said, "Who said that?" And the speaker booped again like it heard me. Then silence. I unplugged it, heart racing, convinced maybe my neighbor's Bluetooth was somehow paired or bleeding through. But the next morning, when I looked at my smart device history in the app, it showed manual voice activity at 10:59 p.m. No command from me, no linked user. Now I'm in full paranoia mode. I Google like a maniac, trying to figure out if someone could remotely activate it. Turns out yes, if someone has admin access, they can drop in like an intercom. But it should only work if both parties consent or are on the same account. I lived alone. No one else should have access. Unless my Wi-Fi network was the one Mitch helped me set up when I moved in. He insisted the building had shared routers per floor. I thought that meant convenient free internet. Now I was picturing him sitting downstairs saying, "Is this thing on?" into some interface. I needed to know, so I set a trap. The next day, I left the speaker plugged in while I went to work. I positioned my laptop webcam facing it, set to record all day. When I came home, the light on the speaker was glowing. Someone had triggered it. I checked the footage. About an hour after I left, the light turned on by itself. Then, faintly, you can hear a man's voice through the speaker. Testing, testing. Followed by static. A minute later, silence. My stomach dropped. I took screenshots, saved the recording, and went straight to a friend's place. That night, we looked deeper into the device settings. Guess whose email was listed as a household administrator? Mitch. He'd somehow added himself during setup, probably when he was helping me connect to Wi-Fi. That gave him permission to use the drop-in feature whenever he wanted, meaning yes, he could listen, anytime. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I called the non-emergency police line. They told me to document everything and contact the property management company. The building technically belongs to a larger firm. Mitch just handles day-to-day stuff. I emailed them the audio clip, the screenshot, everything. Within 2 hours, I got a call from corporate. They were horrified. Apparently, Mitch had done something similar before, not with smart speakers, but with unapproved access to a tenant's camera system years back. He was suspended on the spot pending investigation. 2 days later, I came home to find his office cleared out. His name was scraped off the mailbox. A new property manager introduced herself and told me Mitch would not be returning. I replaced the speaker with a cheap Bluetooth-only one. No microphones, no Wi-Fi. Here's the real kicker though. When the tech guy from the management company came to reset the shared network, he found a small, hidden router plugged into the outlet behind my fridge. It was piggybacking on the building's main internet. I never installed it. Neither did corporate. Guess who set it up? Yup. They said they'd found similar hidden routers in 2 other units. Apparently, Mitch had been using them to monitor traffic on the shared network. Maybe to see connected devices, maybe more. They're still figuring out how deep it went. The company offered to waive a month's rent and cover the cost of a new internet plan for peace of mind. I took it and got my own router with a password. Only I know. But here's what still freaks me out. The smart speaker logs showed activity detected as far back as my first night in the apartment, meaning he was probably listening from day one. Sometimes I still hear a phantom boop when I'm half asleep, like my brain expects to be listened to. TLDR, my smart speaker kept turning on by itself. Thought it was haunted, turns out my landlord had added himself as an admin through the shared Wi-Fi and was using the drop-in feature to listen in. Reported him, he got fired, and I now only use speakers that can't talk back. Update 1 month later. So, the property management company wrapped up their investigation. Turns out Mitch had access to at least 5 tenants' networks. He wasn't recording conversations, thank God, but he was eavesdropping occasionally to check if units were occupied. Total creep move, but they're treating it as unauthorized surveillance. He's facing charges under privacy laws. A detective called me for a statement. They asked if I wanted to pursue it further, but honestly, I just want to move on. They said my evidence, the video, the logs, was enough for their case. I moved out last week, found a new place across town with an independent landlord. An older woman who insists on handwritten leases and thinks smart speakers are the devil's ears. Works for me. I kept the old speaker though. It's unplugged, sitting in a box. A reminder. Because I learned something I'll never forget. Ghosts aren't the only ones who whisper when you think you're alone. Sometimes the monsters aren't hiding in your walls. They're hiding in your data. Our next story takes us to a sleepy suburb where a family's doorbell camera caught something they wish they hadn't seen. And it wasn't just a thief.